our esteemed speaker. So Ayo Lawrence is a beacon of empowerment and a seasoned practitioner in the realm of people and systems organization, known for her adept problem-solving abilities that pave the way for personal and organizational contentment. Aptly titled the Queen of Premium Family Life Practice and hailed as the transformational coach, Ayo has carved a distinct niche for herself. She graduated from the University of Ilorin in Nigeria with a BSc in mathematics, thereafter went on to establish herself professionally as a counselor, coach, and therapist, seamlessly blending her roles as a healing facilitator and educator. She's a master practitioner of family systems engineering from the Institute of Family Engineering and Development, a Canada-trained addictions and mental health practitioner, a certified life coach, NLP practitioner, and cognitive behavioral therapist from the Academy of Modern Applied Psychology in Scotland, United Kingdom, and a certified emotional intelligence practitioner from the Priority Academy. Her expertise extends to mediating conflicts as a certified mediator with specialization in family mediation from the International Mediation Campus in Germany. She harnesses all her tools to guide her clients on a journey towards clarity, healing, wholeness, harmonious and balanced living. Ayo collaboratively orchestrates and spearheads a multitude of professional counseling and intervention programs alongside her dedicated team. She believes in nurturing the upcoming generation for life and leadership, and her personal philosophy embodies the pursuit of a life filled with multifaceted impact, leaving an indelible mark on the tapestry of time with God in the center of it. Ayo's impactful reach extends to the digital realm as well, with her creation of the Balanced ME Toolbox and Balanced ME flashcards. She has also chronicled her life's journey from her birth to her becoming in her book, her memoir titled Living, Loving, Laughing, The Balanced ME, available on Amazon. She is married to Oluwafemi Bernard Lawrence, and their union is blessed with 3 amazing trailblazers. Let's welcome Ayo Lawrence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate you all for coming. This shows me that you love you and you love the people in your lives. Thank you so much, the Elevation Church, my church, for giving me this platform to share knowledge with us, and also the Maturity team for putting this together. Thank you so much, the leader, my dear sis as well, Barrister Folusho, Barrister Pastor Mrs. Folusho Kolawole. Thank you so much. We're going to do something quickly, and I'll want you to just... we've prayed, so I think I can just jump right into it. Okay. I hope that is fine. Okay. I'll want you to do something for me. I'll just want each and every one of us here to close our eyes. Let's just close our eyes. And let's just imagine that we are standing at the edge of a vast, dark forest. The trees are dark and thick, and the path is unclear. And every step forward feels very uncertain. Behind you is the familiar, a place of comfort, but also a place of pain and struggle. Ahead lies the unknown, a journey that promises freedom but demands courage. This is what addiction feels like. I want this imagery to sink in and your eyes still closed. Today we are going to talk about that journey. The journey from darkness of addiction to the light of recovery. It's a path that many fear, some even avoid, but one that holds the promise of a life renewed. A life where you are not defined by your past struggles, but by the strength it took to overcome them. Addiction is about the battles we fight within ourselves, the choices we make on the journey, and the courage to change. And just like that forest, the way out isn't always easy to see, but it's there, waiting for those brave enough to take the first step. I'd like you to open your eyes. So this morning, we are going on that journey. We'll be navigating the path and the courage to step forward and seek help, and even how to support the people in our lives that are on this journey. Overcoming addiction is not just about leaving something behind. It's about rediscovering who you are and who you were always meant to be. That is who you really are. I want us to know that it's a change that starts from within. Next slide, please. It's a change that starts from within. And there's this scripture two scriptures that I have put here this morning, and we are going to go from there. It says in 3 John 1:2, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers." And the second one says, "As he thinks in his heart, so is he." You know, when I kicked off, I talked about the fact that it starts from you. It starts from you remembering who you are, or even knowing who you are. Because we've come to realize that a lot of the times when people go down the dark hole, it's as a result of two things. It's either they've forgotten who they are, or they don't even know who they are in the first instance. And that is the journey that I'll be taking us through this morning. Okay. Oh, I didn't know. Thank you. Okay. So there are some things I would like to share with us this morning. We call them the fundamental truths. I know that quite a number of us feel that whoever finds himself or herself in addiction, it's the person's choice. But the thing is, from studies and from my work with clients, we've come to understand that it is not their choice. When they start whatever it is, that they eventually get hooked on, they always feel they have control. They always feel, oh, I won't go past this. But as time goes on, by the time we look at the circle of addiction, we find out that they begin to tolerate whatever it is. Maybe it's an habit or a substance. And at the end of it, they become dependent on it. So addiction is not a choice that anyone makes. It is not a moral failure. Most of us feel that is the case. When you see someone who is addicted on the streets, we feel, oh, this person is immoral. That's why he or she has found himself or herself in that space. That's not the case. It's something of ethical lapse. It's not a weakness of character, not a failure of will. We also have it, perpetrated amongst people that addiction is an inherited brain disease. No, it is not. If an individual engages in substance use or in a particular behavior, it can change the way the brain works, but it is not a brain disease. I hope it's clear. Addiction is an attempt to soothe pain. So if you find out from people who are addicted to anything, at the root of it is wanting to soothe something, is wanting to soothe a pain, is wanting to let something go away. It's a response to ease human suffering as a result of some trauma. We have what we call adverse childhood experiences. We'll just go into them briefly. So when an individual has trauma as a result of these things, the tendency for that person, to get addicted to either a substance or engage in a behavior is very high. Addiction is also an attempt to escape suffering temporarily. I've mentioned that earlier. Drugs are only a small spectrum of the addictive behavior. So when you hear addiction, what most people feel is we're talking about drugs. What most people feel is we're talking about substance use. It's a lot. And we're going to look into them. All of us have or have had addictive patterns in our lives. In the age of social media, in the age of technology, we find out that quite a number of people are even addicted to their phones. They can't do without their phones. Going into the toilet, their phones. Going into the kitchen, their phones. Everywhere, their phones. So, yours is substance abuse, but it may be a behavioral addiction. It's always good for us to go to the root of whatever we are looking at. So, what is addiction? Or the root word addiction, what exactly is it? And we have it here as tendency, inclination, or penchant. These are the etymology of the word addiction from the Latin word addictionem. I hope I got it right. I hope the people from there will not come and, carry me. Then we have the nominative addictio. It means an awarding, a delivering up. Noun of action from past participle of stem additio. To deliver, to award, to devote, to concentrate, to sacrifice. So these are the root words for the word addiction. So what is addiction itself? Before I read it out, I just want you to have a look at it by yourself. Just take a look at what I have up there and let it sink. Let it sink, then I'll read. So addiction is a manifested behavior that a person finds temporary pleasure in or relief in, and therefore craves, but suffer negative consequences in the long term as a result of it, and does not give up despite these negative consequences. So, a person finds pleasure, relief, craves it, negative consequences in the long term as a result of that particular behavior. Give up despite the negative consequences. So we find out that it involves loss of control, and it frequently hurts the person and even the relationship the person is in. The mental health is affected, the physical health is affected, and even the person's general quality of life. So that's what addiction does. You find pleasure in it, you find relief in it for a short period of time, you crave it, even though it's harming you, you don't want to give up. You are aware of the consequences as you go along, but you just don't want to give up. And today we are looking at how we can go on that journey to recovery. Like I said, it would be great for us to look at the various forms of addictions so that we'll know that it's beyond drugs or substance use. So there are quite a number. We have the substance addiction, alcoholism, nicotine addiction, which includes tobacco, vaping, drug addiction to opioids, cocaine, cannabis, heroin, tramadol, Colorado, fentanyl, crystal meth. There are quite a number of them. Then we have behavioral addictions, gambling, internet addiction, social media, video game, shopping is part of it. We have process addiction, food. Some people overeat, some people binge eat. Exercise, always at the gym. You don't want to stop. Work addiction, workaholic. I used to be one of them. Workaholic, always working, hiding behind work, while some things are not, in order. Sex addiction, masturbation. Then we have other addictions, caffeine addiction, sugar addiction, technology addiction, our smartphones, and our TVs. While I was talking, when we were looking at the fundamental truths, we talked about trauma. And it's important for us to understand this, because we've come to understand that quite a number of people that have addictions have at some point been traumatized. And trauma is a response to an intensely stressful event or situation that overwhelmed an individual psychologically. Let me read it again. Trauma is a response to an intensely stressful event or situation that overwhelmed an individual psychologically. So whatever the event is that has stressed you so much and has overwhelmed you psychologically is a traumatic response. And I want us to know that trauma is not the event itself. It is your response to an event. Trauma is not the event. It is not that thing that happened to you. It is the way you responded to that thing that happened to you. So something can traumatize myself, and it may not traumatize somebody else in the audience. So the way each and every one of us respond to trauma, to events, either traumatizes us or not. I'd like to share a personal story. It's quite funny. When I was in school in Canada, usually I take the bus. And I found out that after school was done, I was actually traumatized by the sound of the buses. And I'll explain. Because I know that if I don't get to the bus stop at a particular time, I'm going to miss my bus. So each time I hear the bus's horn, or the buses are moving not quite far away to where I stay, I just get, jittery. I just get, it's time to go. It's time to go and catch your bus. It's time, to just move. So for me, that was an event that traumatized me. And when we had to move from where we were living to another place, I was so happy because I was not hearing the sound of the buses again. For me, that was a traumatic event. To some other people, it may just be, something that happened. But for me, it was such, a big deal. So that's what trauma can be, to individuals. And we have different experiences that can traumatize people and can make them, at the end of the day, to get themselves addicted to either a substance or a particular behavior. Most of the time, traumatic events happen between the ages of 0 to 17. And that's why it's very important that we are careful with our children. How are we bringing them up? So that the things happening in their lives, do not become trauma at the end of the day. And we have quite a number of them. Physical abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, physical neglect, emotional neglect, having a parent who has alcohol use disorder, a parent who is a victim of domestic violence, having a family member who is incarcerated, having a family member diagnosed with a mental health illness, experiencing divorce of parents, racism, bullying, major loss of death of a parent, sibling, or caregiver, being involved in an accident, or community violence. So all these things, can become trauma to an individual and become deep-seated such that in the future it begins to show up. For most of us who are Africans, at least we'll have had one. Physical abuse. Slippers, throw at the child. Slippers, to beat the child. We may think, oh, it's no big deal, but all these things go a long way. Because you are telling the child, the self-esteem of the child is being destroyed, as it were. When you're throwing something at someone, you're telling the person you're not worth as much as you think you are. And I was having a conversation with my husband a few days ago. I said, why do we think it is not okay for adults to be slapped, and we feel it's okay for our children to be slapped? Because when an adult is slapped, maybe an adult, a husband and a wife are fighting, and the one slaps the other, we feel, oh, that's domestic violence. But we find it very easy to slap our children. It's the same thing. And there are ways we can work with the children in such a way that physical abuse, verbal abuse does not happen. You find out that some people have experienced sexual abuse. Maybe someone is living in the house with them, an older person, and all these things become deep-seated trauma that show up one way or the other in the future. So these are the factors that increase the risk of addiction: genetics, environment, chronic stress, and mental health disorders, misuse of drug prescription. So you were given a sleeping pill, and you decide to increase the dosage. And over time, you increase, you get to tolerance, and then you become dependent on the drug. I'm trying to move very fast because of my time. For genetics, we have individuals with family history of substance use. They are more susceptible to this addiction because there's someone in the family who uses it, so you can actually see it around. And that way, they can get themselves also involved in the practice. Peer pressure as well, undue exposure in the community can also make people be susceptible to addiction. Then chronic stress. To some people, too much work, either at work or at home or even in school, whatever it is. When people are unable to cope, they begin to get themselves, in other activities. So it's very important that you mind the stress that you expose yourself to. Stress is good, because if none of us is stressed, we'll all just be at ease in Zion. Let me use that word. Just take it easy, nothing. So you need a little bit of stress, but ensure that it is not chronic stress. So we have effects of addiction on individuals, physical health. There's organ damage, malnutrition, risk of infections. We have mental health issues as a result of that: depression, anxiety, mood swings, suicidal thoughts, relationship problems, strained relationships with families and friends, romantic partners as well, work or school issues, absenteeism comes in, poor performance, financial difficulties, you get into debt, bankruptcy in some instances, legal troubles, arrests, and all that, social isolation, emotional distress, guilt, shame. And that's why a lot of people don't want to show up. When they find out that they're already hooked on a particular substance or in a particular behavior, what sets in is guilt. They're ashamed, feeling of hopelessness. And in some instances, you find out that when feeling of hopelessness sets in, suicide is just by the doorway. So it's important that we all know these are the effects of addiction. So if we have anyone going through it in our families, these are the things we need to know can happen to such a person. We have cognitive impairment, we have increased risk of overdose or death. So, what are the effects of addictions on loved ones? We have emotional distress. Family members begin to experience anxiety, depression, and even helplessness. They can't help this person, and they're like, what is going on here? Financial burden. You find out that in some instances, people who are addicted to whatever it is, are looking for every means possible to get what they need to get to be able to feed, the addiction. Strained relationships as well. It causes conflict and damage of relationship. Codependency. Family members may develop codependency, sacrificing their own needs just to be able to support whoever is going through it. Then we have enabling behaviors. Loved ones, it's not intentional, but they just find out that if care is not taken, they begin to cover up for whatever the person is doing because they also are ashamed, they also are feeling guilty. So all these things happen. And one thing I just want us to know is that there is help. Help is here. Help is here. Help is here. The Bible says in Matthew 11:28, it says, "Come unto me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." That's what Jesus said. There is help. There is help. No matter how deep an individual is in addiction, there is help. God has gotten you. He has put processes in place. He has put ideas in the hearts of men, we practitioners, to be able to support such an individual on their journey, to finding relief from whatever it is they are in. Okay. So, all the suffering, stress, and addiction comes from not realizing you already are what you are looking for. At the beginning, I mentioned the fact that when people do anything that does not promote their peace, their progress, it's as a result of two things. It's either you don't know who you are, or you have forgotten who you are. And that is what is captured by this person, John Zabadzin. He says, all the suffering, the stress, and addiction comes from not realizing who you already are and what you already are, what you are looking for. So you're already what you're looking for. You are enough. I don't know if any of us picked some cards at the door before coming in. There are things on the card that shows who you are. We have I'm enough, I'm perfect, I'm special. Reminding ourselves, who we are in God. So, the first step an individual needs to take in getting help is to first of all realize that you need help. When people come to me and they say, oh, we have someone who needs to go through the addiction recovery program, the first thing I ask is this person willing? Because if you're willing to help, to drop the money, and that individual is not willing, it's a waste of time. So whoever is going through the process must be willing to get help, must accept that I need help and I'm ready to go all the way. I need help and I'm ready to go all the way. I just want to show us the cycle. So, the first thing is exposure to the substance or behavior. Then the next thing is you begin to abuse whatever it is. Then the next thing is you have tolerance. Then you become dependent on it. The tolerance is you're taking the medication, the drug, or you're engaging in the behavior, and at some point, the quantity or the number of times you are engaging in the behavior is no longer enough. So you need to go over and beyond what is normal. And by the time you do that, you find out that it is increased. If it's a drug that you're using, the quantity is increased, or the number of times you are engaging in that behavior is increased, and before you know it, you are dependent on whatever it is, and then you have addiction. If you notice, there's an arrow there that says quit. At that point, we have individuals who are ready to seek help. So they become addicted and they are ready to seek help. So they are able to get out of the cycle. We have some individuals that have the experience withdrawal, not everyone. So the people that experience withdrawal, if they are not well handled, you find out that they go back and they relapse, and the whole cycle starts again. And that's why it's very important that they are well managed. People are in touch with them to ensure that the cycle is broken after that addiction stage. I hope that is clear. So, we also have So we move on to this, which is the 6 stages of recovery. We call it the TTM, or the stages of change model. So the first one is the pre-contemplation. So they are still thinking, they are not, there's no immediate intention, as it were, to alter their behavior. So they are just there. They may not even be aware that their behavior is problematic. People are telling them, you're too much on the TV. You are always here from morning till night. But they are like, what's the big deal here? I'm just watching a movie, Then we have the contemplation stage. That's the second stage. They become aware of whatever is happening to them, and they are thinking of making a change. So they're already contemplating, should I think it would be good for me to go on this journey? Then the next one is we have the preparation stage. So this person is already saying, okay, these are the things I want to do within the next couple of days, within the next couple of months. So the person is preparing and taking action. It's determined and preparing. Then we have the action stage, wherein the person is now committed to doing whatever he or she has said during the preparation stage. Then we have the maintenance stage. And at this stage, the person is working proactively to ensure that there is no relapse. So the person under the action stage is already doing some things, ensuring that some activities, some tools that have been given to him or her is being used and is being maintained, at the 5th stage, which is the maintenance stage. And at this maintenance stage, there can be a quit, like I said, but if care is not taken, the person moves on to the relapse stage. So we have the addiction recovery program itself. So in case anyone, is already addicted to anything, there is a process for you to follow to ensure that you get out of whatever, the addiction you found yourself in. And this is our own process. So we have the addiction recovery program, and this is what we take our clients through. So the first one, clarity and root cause. So we meet up with our clients and we find out what exactly is the cause of, you can't hear me, sorry. Okay. So for the clarity and root cause, we ask our clients, what exactly is the root? What caused, the addiction in the first place? So we ask them questions about their upbringing, we ask them questions about the environment wherein they grew up in, and all that, just to clarify where that is coming from. Then we take them through the adverse childhood experiences assessment, just to be able to elicit the trauma. And then we go through trauma healing and identity recovery. Like I said, a lot of people have forgotten who they are. They've forgotten who they are, really. And we need to be able to help them to heal and to remember and to recover their identity. Then we have the fourth stage, which is the family support. So as we are going through all this, we ensure that the family also is involved, because it's important for them to know that they are not alone on the journey. So the family need to be able to support the clients. The family needs to be able to also have even a coping strategy. So even as we are giving the individual tools to go through the process, even the family also need to be able to be given strategies to be able to cope as they engage with their family member. Then we have the stopgap strategy and coaching. So here we try out all sorts of activities to determine what will work with the person, because we are all different. So what works for person A may not work for person B. So we'll ensure that through questions, through psychotherapy, we are asking and we are able to say this particular coaching method or this particular therapy will work for an individual. Then we have the sixth step, which is alternative high. The thing is, you cannot collect, let me use the word collect, something from someone and not replace it with another thing. So you need to be able to ensure that you install an alternative, positive, and empowering addiction. And you're going to work together with the person, so that the person can be able to stabilize. Because you can't just say, stop this. There are instances you're working with someone, the person takes maybe 20 cigarettes a day. You have to also help the person begin to taper it down. You ask, how many do you think you can go down to? Oh, I can go down to 8. Fantastic. You celebrate the person, because someone who is taking 20 and goes down to 8, it's a huge, huge step. So with every step you celebrate, you let them know that you see them and you see the effort they are putting into it. Then we have number 7, which is the new escape. You'll be able to check that whatever process you've put in place, is it working for this individual? Then we have the identity retention. We've talked about the recovery. You keep reminding the person who he or she is. Because if the person knows who he or she is, there are some things the person wouldn't. Then we have the initial release. Let's see if this person can walk addiction-free. Let's see if this person has been able to come to a point wherein the addiction that has held him or her bound for a number of years or months is no longer there. And then we have freedom. So usually under freedom is more like a celebration. So you've worked with the person for months, sometimes 6 months, sometimes 12 months, depending on what exactly you're looking at. And then you will celebrate. So like we always do, you have freedom. People who are apprentices, at the end of the day, they are set free and there's party and all. So you celebrate the person's freedom or release from the addiction. So these are the 10 stages that we take our clients through when they are going through the addiction recovery program. I'll just like to say, wrapping up now, I'd like to say that recovery is very possible. And that's one thing that each and every one of us need to understand. It is possible. And any individual that has gotten himself or herself in any form of addiction at any point in time can get back to living a normal life. So peradventure, you are here or you have someone somewhere who is addicted to one thing or the other, like we said, maybe substance, maybe process, maybe behavior, he is addicted to that, there is hope. There is hope. There is hope. Like we started, God has your best interest at heart. He loves you. And as a result of that, he has put into the hearts of individuals. We have the medical practitioners. We have practitioners like us, psychotherapists, who work with individuals who are going through this process. And with that, you are able to get to freedom. You are able to get, to experience the liberty that your heart truly, truly desires. On that note, I'm going to end up at this time and call on the moderator. Thank you very much.